This is Dr. Goodin again, talking right after talking with a student about finishing collecting data, starting with chapters 4 and 5, being on that downhill slope, downhill for you, I don't know which way, downhill slope with momentum behind you, got some gravity working on your side. You're gaining confidence. You've got command of the data. You're gaining command of the data. All you've got to do is put it out there. It's not that easy, I say, but it's easier. I was just talking about to him about a different student, without naming the student, of course. But I was saying a student did this recently, and it was problematic. What you don't do in the results section of chapter 4, it's only the facts, ma'am. And I tend to repeat things because I'm a teacher, and that's what teachers do. And you know, eventually I'll be old and I'll use that excuse. But the deal is that you don't want to present your opinion. It's only the facts, ma'am. And one thing to watch out for is you don't say all the participants experienced, and I was using the example in the previous video of black father engagement with their children, a study focused on that. And I said you don't want to say, well, all 10 fathers in my study expressed that their wives, or their ex-wives, sorry, or wives, made it difficult to access their children. You don't want just that, because you got to show me the data. And we talked about Jerry Maguire, the movie that we both experienced as probably teenagers, and you know how he said, "Show me the money." Tom Cruise, who's a crazy person, said that. And he was crazy sort of in that movie, but he said, "Show me the money." And I say to my students, show me the data. All right, if you're going to tell me all 10 participants or whatever it was in a qualitative study said, or they expressed that their wives were, you know, denying them access in some way, making it difficult to access their children, okay, tell me more. Tell me the data. Show me the evidence. And in a qualitative study, it's less of like, well, here are the numbers, here's my data set. You're not going to do that probably even in a quantitative study, but you are going to say, look, here's the mean, here's the path analysis, here's, you know. Instead, in a qualitative study, you're going to say, for instance. So all 10 participants noted that their wives were made it difficult to access their children. For instance, participant 1 remarked on the hostility of his wife as an issue of difficulty, period. He said, here's where you insert the evidence, his quote, the quote that expresses that what you said was just true, that he experienced hostility, and then you're going to want to continue with other quotes that show me that, okay, I believe you now, that all 10 participants experienced hostility. His quote was, or experienced difficulty due to the other parent, the co-parent. So maybe he says, his quote is, for instance, participant 1 said, she's just hates me, can't stand me, and will do anything to just make my life difficult, and so she just argues with me instead of trying to allow me to see the kids, things like that. And then you go into participant 2 and what sort of they focused on within that same theme of difficulty accessing kids, or whatever your study is focused on with your themes. But this is under the same theme. Participant 2 said this, and whatever you say at the very beginning, if all 10 said this, then I don't necessarily need to see 10 quotes, but I need to see a good, what I would say, smattering of quotes. I'd say 4, 5, 6. For instance, participant 1 said this, participant 2 said this, participant 3 said this, participant 4 or 5 said this. And then you're showing me, look, these exact quotes from interviews where, obviously you've combed through the whole interview and found the important parts, and you're saying this statement. Show me the evidence. Show me the data that proves that what you're saying is not just conjecture. I had a student recently that just did a lot of conjecturing, and it seemed to want me to believe him. He didn't say that. It was probably just the way I took it, but sent me a draft of chapter 4 without quotes, at least not quotes throughout. So a lot of it would just be all 10 experienced difficulty with their wives or ex-wives, giving them access. And then he went on to the next thing. And I just sat there wondering, what just happened? Show me the data, right? So hopefully you understand that you want to support every statement with a quote. You want to weave the quotes together like I've discussed, but you do want to sort of say what they're talking about and give overarching understanding of, like, all 10 said this, or 9 out of 10, or 6 out of 8 females and 4 out of 11 males. Whatever it is, you can give that overarching sort of understanding, but you back it up with the quotes. The quotes are the pillars that hold up this study, this temple, this house, whatever you want to use as a metaphor. You've got to have the data. You've got to have those quotes to back up what you're saying. You can't just say, well, here's what I perceived, because qualitative studies are so, there's such a difficulty with avoiding bias and mitigating bias, minimizing bias. And so you want to be really sure with bracketing, reflective journaling, but also with backing everything up with a quote to show them, here's how I saw things. All 10 seem to talk about this. And then you provide enough of that very clear, detailed evidence, exact quotes, to prove to the audience, oh, it's not just you, the researcher, trying to see things the way you want to see them and just writing that. Here's what I saw, here's what I read, hope you believe me. It's not like the news. This is research. You back everything up with data. And so you back it up. You say, here's a quote that supports what I just said. In fact, your wording should be in support of the quotes rather than quotes in support of your wording. You weave it together to present it in an academic, expert sort of conversational tone, but it's not conversational like talking to my buddy. It's conversational like giving an academic presentation. And so you weave together how the different pieces of data work to support a theme, how they sort of differ from each other a little bit, how they're tied to ultimately responding to the research question, and even further to addressing the purpose of the study and sort of chipping away at the problem that drove your study to begin. So, show me the data. This has been Dr. Goodin. Like, subscribe, please share. I think this is useful for anyone, everyone. And I will get into a little bit more of what's next in chapter 4 and 5 in the next video. Thank you very much.